Welcome back to the Garrett Mason Show. If you are looking for sugar-coated preaching, you won't find that here today. Pastor John Amanchukwu is a well-known conservative activist. He is most best known for going to school boards and telling them how wrong they are in regards to gender confusion and all things CRT. He is a very loud voice on the matter. We're very excited to have him here today. Pastor John, thank you for joining the Garrett Mason Show, and welcome to Maine.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is my first time to Maine. I had a Maine lobster roll.
Yes, sir.
And I feel like I'm a Mainer now.
Did you have it with mayonnaise or without?
Butter, man.
Okay, all right.
With butter.
Listen, everybody's got
better with bacon. Everything's better with butter, bro.
Everybody's got it their own way, and everybody's got their own spot that they like to have their lobster rolls at.
Sure.
But you have to come in the summer because that's when the best seafood is.
All right, I'll come back.
And we live through the winter here for the pure joy of like 6 weeks of summer.
Okay,
but it's worth it. It's a perfect summer.
I love it.
So, well, hey, I'm really glad to have you on the show. Obviously, we're here today to celebrate Maine Girl Dads and Protect Girls Sport, being the first ballot initiative in the country to actually make the Protect Girls Sport referendum be on the ballot. Direct access to the people. That's a huge deal. 70,000 signatures announced today.
Indeed.
Can you talk a little bit about that just for a second? What a big deal that is. You've been fighting this fight forever.
Well, your governor, I would probably call her the prototype for Margaret Sanger. She's a wicked and diabolical woman. Mm-hmm. And she pushed back against President Trump's executive order and told President Trump that I will see you in court. Yeah. And as I travel this country with my national movement, talking about gender theory, queer theory, critical race theory, and DEI, I've challenged fathers and men to stand up. But I don't have to do that in Maine. 8,000 dads came forward to stand and to protect their daughters and their wives. This is really ground zero for the battle nationally.
Amen.
And that we were able to secure 70,000 signatures here, that says something. My prayer is that every state takes notice on what's taking place in Maine.
So one fun fact, we just learned this while the event was going on. It's the fastest that a citizens initiative has ever been collected. Wow. The fastest, less than a month, 30 days. And they give you 18 months to get these on the ballot. So to know that it was done in 30 days is incredibly, just wildly amazing.
It also says that the governor and others in the state, they're tone deaf. Prior to this past election in 2024, one would think that the idea that pushing men into women's sports could hold, and that America was open to it, but we rebuked that.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why President Trump won is because people got sick of the gender insanity that was being pushed by the left.
That's right.
But for Mainers to still hold on to that, and for the governor to think that that's still acceptable, she's tone deaf. And so we're going to teach her a lesson. She's coming up on the end of her term.
Yep.
And there's someone waiting in the wings that's as radical and insidious as her. And so we need the right candidate to arise in Maine to make sure that we can win that seat back.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. And, I want to tell your story because there's something fundamental that you talk about that I think is very important. It's a message that I brought to a lot of pulpits when I ran for governor in 2018. I spent every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, anytime a pastor would let me into their pulpit, I would go because number one, the church is an important constituency and they need to be active to vote. But also to tell the church, there is a reason that people turn to government. The church is the one that is supposed to take care of the needy and the downtrodden among us. That Jesus says we are always going to have the poor and needy among us. Indeed. We will always have it. And it's up to the church and her people to take care of them. And I find in the age that we live in, there's a lot of woke Christianity going on out there.
Sure.
A lot of woke Christianity, people that are saying that the command in the Bible to take care of the poor and needy is to the government and not to the church.
That's right.
You are really passionate about that message.
Right.
And I just wondered if you could talk about that a little bit, because I think it is probably some of the most dangerous theology that is infecting the church today. And thank God, we're sitting in a church right now who that is not the case. They do not believe that here. Pastor Travis does not believe that.
Indeed. Well, Scripture says that if a man doesn't work, neither shall he eat. And if a man can't take care of his family, he's worse than a infidel. And so that's strong language there.
It is.
As a black man, I have witnessed the impact of welfare states.
Mm-hmm.
From the 1890s all the way up to the 1950s, the black marriage rate rivaled that of whites. But when LBJ came along with his Great Society
Yep.
To strategically get the black man out of the home and to replace him with a check from the government. So dad goes out and in comes a $300 check or more from the federal government. That destroyed the gains that had been made in the black community, considering that we even overcame Jim Crow laws that were drafted primarily by the Democrat Party.
That's right.
These unjust laws, we endured those things. Our families were together. At that time frame before the 60s, a good 85 to 90% of black homes, you had two parents there. But after LBJ worked his hoax on black America, we're looking at nearly 75% of black homes today being led by a single parent. In some states like Baltimore, Maryland, is nearly 85% and 90% are led by a single parent.
Which is funny you mentioned that, because Baltimore, Maryland has one of the worst school systems in the entire country.
They do. I went to Baltimore, Maryland about a year ago to speak at their school board meeting. They have a CEO of schools that makes $479,000 a year.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And the kids can neither read or write or do basic math. And when I came to speak at their school board meeting, they called a citywide emergency on me. Just think about that. And so that day I was the right color, but the wrong political party.
That's right.
Right? And so, Baltimore has a black governor. Maryland has a black governor. Baltimore has a black mayor. The police force is primarily black. But when a black Christian conservative pastor shows up with the Bible, we have to tell the audience that we have to call a citywide emergency because there's a threat in the room.
Yeah.
And so whenever truth shows up, it's always a threat to lies.
That's right.
And so they wanted to rob me of my freedom of speech and to keep me from speaking out. Yeah. I think now more than ever, it's imperative that men and that fathers and that preachers use their voice for good. There's a spirit of cowardice that has been released in the land. And God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And cowardiceness is not a fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
It's a part of carnality. We have the right to remain bold in Christ. It was the boldness and the preaching of the early church that really spurred on revival. There was a man who had been healed, and he believed, that it was God that did it. And he was forced, to even stand boldly and to address the impact of his salvation through healing. And the disciples understood something. They knew that they had to go back to their own company and pray and ask God for more boldness to continue in the fight.
Yeah.
And in the Greek, that word boldness means freedom of speech. It means the unreservedness of utterance. It means to say all and to tell all. Now more than ever, we need preachers who understand what true boldness is. We should be free in addressing the issues of our day. We shouldn't keep the truth from our congregants and from parishioners just to make people feel good. I strongly believe that weak pulpits create weak Christians.
That's right.
Scary preachers create scary sheep. And that's why we have this movement afoot in the Christian church where syncretism has taken hold of the hearts of many congregants and Christians. Syncretism is the amalgamation of cultural beliefs and thoughts, where we're beginning to mix that which is holy with that which is profane. We have secularized the Christian church. And it's no longer about this right here. It's no longer about Genesis to Revelations. It's about making people feel good, making people comfortable, making people feel as if they belong, or preaching to the seeker-friendly audience.
Yeah.
But every person who comes into the kingdom, they must experience conviction.
Yeah.
Conviction is the very thing that the early church leaned into. They would cut you before they consoled you. Mm-hmm. They would tell you the truth. Consider the words and the statements of Peter on the day of Pentecost. He reminded those who were in the audience that you crucified Jesus.
Yeah.
He didn't have to bring that up.
Yeah.
But he made it plain that this thing was already figured out by God, by the determinate counsel this would take place. And he preached to the matter in a manner where people after that wanted to get saved. And they said, what must we do to get saved? And so I think now more than ever, we have to hold the line on the truth.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking for Mainers and people all around this country to lean in to your boldness and into your faith.
One of the stories I used to go around and tell, and kind of riffing off what you just said, is there's so many pastors who are scared, to lose their tax status or to, which actually isn't real at all.
Sure.
And they're concerned they're going to offend somebody, or they're concerned, there's all these concerns.
Right.
There's all these concerns about being political. But if we didn't have political preachers, we wouldn't have a country.
Right.
The fire of revolution was started in the pulpits of America.
Right.
And, I think that sometimes we're losing that heritage. Mm-hmm. As Americans, we've always been politically aggressive. I mean, we fought off the largest standing army the world had ever seen at that time because the tax of tea was too high, amongst other things. But, I think we're starting to lose that. Do you have any examples that you know of that you've kind of shared your message and some of these pastors have woken up and kind of changed their mind about, hey, no, we need to be bold. We need to talk about politics in the church. We need to make sure people are informed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've now traveled to 23 states speaking out against the gender theory, queer theory, critical race theory topic, and garnered a lot of feedback from pastors who tell me all the time that, man, watching your videos and seeing you stand in front of these school boards and sometimes surrounded by 7 cops just because you open up a book, and you just
they're already providing.
Yeah,
they're already providing.
It's in the library.
Yeah,
and so I'll walk into a school board meeting and it's a simple strategy. You know what I mean? I just grab a book from the library and begin to read from it, like this book here entitled "It Feels Good to Be Yourself." It's a book about gender identity for kids ages 4 and up. This book talks about transgenderism, being non-binary, being cisgender. What 4-year-old knows what that means?
Well, they shouldn't know.
And they can't spell it, and they shouldn't know,
Yeah.
When you read the jacket of the book, it says some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are both, neither, or somewhere in between. I mean, this is smut.
Yeah.
It really is. And then this book here is entitled Worm Loves Worm. It's by J.J. Austrian and Mike Curato. And this book, endorses same-sex marriage. It talks about some bees and some worms, and one worm wants to be the bride, and the other worm wants to be the bride too, and then the other one wants to be the groom, and then the other worm wants to be the groom too, and then they say, we're going to change how things are normally done, and so they get married. And so this is pushing that upon children also. And so for pastors out there and for preachers, for the Christian church, we have to say at what point are we going to be willing to practice civil disobedience?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, think of the concept of what we're doing here in Maine for this event. We are trying to convince Americans that men should not have the right to compete against women. But my question is, why are dads sitting in the bleachers, eating their Mike and Ikes, M&M's, plain or peanut, eating their sugar babies and sugar daddies and their Twizzlers, just chewing away, eating their popcorn and then washing it down with a Diet Coke? It tastes better with a Diet Coke, right?
It always does. Coke Zero love.
Coke Zero,
yeah.
And then they sit and watch the match and their daughter is being defrauded.
Yeah.
At some point, masculinity has to do what masculinity does.
That's right.
Testosterone has to do what testosterone does. It speaks up. You know, men are called to be providers, the priest of their homes, and protectors.
Yep.
You know, I could only imagine being Riley Gaines' father.
Oh my gosh. I talked to her about that.
And watching her get into the swimming pool and seeing this 6'4" man with 15 size 15 shoes. I could only imagine sitting there and watching that.
I have huge empathy for him.
Yeah.
I do.
Well,
it's tough.
You're better than me.
Well, no, for her dad.
For her dad.
For her dad. I have a little girl. I have a 5-year-old little girl. Yeah. And if she called me and, you know, at 18, 19 years old, I mean, listen, 18, 19 years old, like you're still figuring out who you are.
Sure.
You know, like at the very beginning of figuring out who you are as a person.
Right.
And, you know, when she tells the story about calling her dad and said, Dad, there's a guy in the locker room.
Yeah.
He must have wanted to come through the phone because I know what I would want to do.
Right.
You know,
I would have come through the phone.
Yeah.
I would have been present. You know? I believe that it possibly was. I don't know. It's just, this is a men's issue.
Yeah.
We can't expect the mama bears and the girls to do everything. You know, consider the mama bears who go to the PTA meetings and they read the curriculums. They study with the kids. You know, they go buy all the poster boards and the markers and everything like that to do all the projects for the kids. Then they go and they cook and then they clean the house. And still they have to go to the school board meetings and fight off weirdos and have to speak up and defend women in sports.
Yeah.
They're tired.
Yeah.
They are doing enough.
That's right.
They are. At some point, men have to say, man, I'm sick and tired of sitting back and allowing women to have to fight all these battles alone.
Yep.
Get up, speak up, and stop this insanity from happening. When we create a wall of protectors that surrounds this nation, these weirdos who are pushing this stuff on children to force a man into a woman's locker room, you're going too far.
Yeah, way too far.
To force a man into a swimming pool and tell the girls that you can't speak up and say anything about it because, you know, you don't want to be unloving towards him. And for men to just watch this take place.
Yeah.
This is our fault.
Yeah. Yep.
We should lay this at the feet of spineless men.
Yeah, and this is, you know, you look at Maine and what's going on here. This is, I'm proud of the 8,000 dads that have said no, we're not doing this.
Yeah,
and
we need more of that.
Yeah, we do, and it's really inspiring to see. Now, you got your claim to fame is school board meetings. You know, you've been all over the country doing your thing, and I can tell you here in Maine, there's a lot of school boards who are pushing back.
Sure.
We've actually had 6 school boards across the state say no to the Maine Human Rights Commission and to Janet Mills saying, we are going to enforce Title IX the way that it is. You're going to have boy sports, you're going to have girl sports, you're going to have girl spaces and boy spaces, and have just completely rejected what the Maine Human Rights Act says is a violation.
Right.
And we just got word recently that they are now being sued.
Good.
And, you know, I would, if I'm one of those school board members, I would count it as a badge of honor. And it's actually lit a fire under a whole bunch of other school boards to do the same thing. I, you know, as you go around the country and fight these battles at school boards, I think these members need to understand that courage is a muscle.
It is.
And, you know, I think a lot of people get elected to these school boards because they, you know, their kids are in school and they just want to be helpful.
Sure.
And then they get this issue dropped on their lap that most of the time they didn't even know existed.
True.
And then they realize they have to be, the people are relying on them to be a beacon of truth.
Right.
And so what do you give for advice to school board members who maybe bit off a little bit more than they could chew and got involved in something that they didn't even realize was a problem?
Right. You know, every choice is a voice. What you say and what you fail to say speaks volumes. You know, there comes a time when silence becomes betrayal.
Yep.
And sitting in the seat of neutrality is not the proper seat.
Yeah.
You have to pick a side.
That's right.
You know, you can't be lukewarm. You know, you have to stand for truth, or you have to cave to whatever the world sends your way. And one of the things that I have seen, number one, as a result of my national campaign, is that perverts are perverting the hearts and the minds of children. That is true. These are not kind people. These are not just people. Mm-hmm. These are not just socially confused people. They're perverts.
Yep.
That's what they are. Number two, parents have failed to do their job.
Yes.
You're sending kids, your child off to Babylon. Mm-hmm. Don't be surprised if they come back as Babylonians. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't endorse a school system that barred God, in particular school-sponsored prayer, in 1962 with the Ingle v. Vitale court case.
I love this.
You know, there was a simple non-denominational prayer.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say it. Can you say it?
That was prayed in the public school system. Almighty God, we acknowledge our dependence upon Thee, and we beg thy blessings upon us, our parents, our teachers, and our country.
What's wrong with that?
It's a simple non-denominational prayer that was recited that a wicked woman by the name of Madeleine Murray O'Hare objected to. And she used her son William as a pawn. You know, she was a Marxist atheist.
Yep.
You know, and a communist. And so she used William to push her agenda. And thank God, although she's dead and died a terrible death, her son William came to salvific faith. He's a believer now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. Indeed. And so just that ideology, you know, of just barring God out, you know, because wherever God is banned, that place is cursed. Mm-hmm. You can't get the blessings of God while rejecting God at the same time.
Ichabod across the door, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. The glory has departed. And I keep that in mind even for my own self. You know, my kids go to a private Christian school.
Oh, mine.
That's all they've ever known. I'm paying $2,800 a month. It's expensive.
It's not cheap.
You know, but and people tell me all the time, Pastor John, why are you weighing in on these issues in the public school system when your kids go to a private school? And that's where I get real giddy and happy when they say that, because I believe strongly that if you're going to take my money, you can't take my money and not get my input.
That's right.
You know, I'm paying property taxes here.
Yes, sir.
And I'm paying for 3 empty seats in a public school. Mm-hmm. All right. And so as long as you're in my pockets, all right, you're going to hear from me. You're going to hear my preaching.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's why I do it. But then also I understand that we don't live in a perfect utopia.
Yeah.
And our kids are going to grow up with all kinds of children. And we want to make the world better. Mm-hmm. You know, I get that. And then the final thing that I've learned and seen nationally is that pastors have failed to do their job.
Yep.
You know, and so they've passed the buck off to someone else. And sadly today, that's the mama bear. Mm-hmm. But the mama bear is tired, and she needs the papa bear to weigh in with her.
I couldn't agree more. And you know, one of the things I know in my own local school board, this was said for a long time, is, you know, you don't have kids in the school system, or you didn't go to the school system, and so you don't get to have a voice. And that is not how this works.
No, it's
not. But and those same people will come and ask for your vote when it's time for re-election to the school board.
Correct.
So I couldn't agree more. The people who don't have children in the school systems probably should be the loudest voices.
Yes.
Because they don't have as much to lose as the kids who are in the school system.
That's true.
And it's it's a very inverse relationship in my opinion. Pastor John, I know we're running out of time, and I know you have places to be and people to meet and people to convince. But
pray for me.
I will. I want to thank you for coming to Maine. You know, we're a little state, but we pack a big punch.
Sure.
And
your dads have proved that.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes. Our dads have proved that. But I thank you for your time. I thank you for your advocacy. I'm a better person for hearing you. And we're very thankful that you're here today.
Thank you. It's an honor. I hope to come back.
All right. Anything you want to plug before we go?
Hey, do me a big favor. Go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. It's John Amanchukwu on YouTube, and go to iknowgod.us. I have a master class that I'm going to provide for you to teach you how to reclaim schools and communities. Thank you.
And with that, I will ask you to do the same. Please go to YouTube, like and subscribe, all the socials. We've had an incredible day here at the Protect Girls Sport Rally featuring many speakers, which we'll roll out clips over the weeks. But thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.